The Leaf streak snapped at 7. We'll break down the loss to the Vegas Golden Knights with some of the stuff we liked, some of the stuff that we didn't, and we'll play a Leafs edition of Cosign, No Sign today as well. And Dave, I've got a take, so you won't want to miss out on that. All that more coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's $20 off using the code Locked On at Game Time. Leafs fall to the Vegas Golden Knights. 6-2 was the final. The winning streak comes to an end at 7 games, was unable to push it to 8. What did you make of this loss, Dave? What did you make of the Maple Leafs tonight?
I thought they started great. Well, pretty good. And then they just, I don't even really know how to explain. They just kind of fell apart.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to give credit to Vegas. And we talked about this yesterday, how this was a team that clearly didn't like how things went last time these two teams played last week in Vegas, and they're going to be a much better team coming into Toronto. And look, Toronto, for whatever reason, they've struggled on home ice. So we knew that it was going to be a bit of a battle, maybe an uphill battle also for the Maple Leafs. And to your point, I think that they started out well. Like, I liked the start. Sheldon Keefe talked about how much he liked the start. And then they started to get a little cute. They started to make those defensive miscues that hasn't quite been in their game over the course of the last couple of weeks here during this winning streak. You saw, guys start to get in behind them. They gave up a number of breakaways and odd man rushes, and they, left some guys in alone in front of the net. So there was just some defensive miscues that ultimately the Vegas Golden Knights capitalized on. And that's what a good team does. They capitalize when they're given opportunities and chances like that, like the Leafs gave them, and they made no mistake about it. And they made them pay for those mistakes. And look, I don't think it's the end of the world. The Leafs are still, I think you could still be very happy with how they're playing. We knew that this winning streak was going to come to an end at some point, right? Like, I don't think tonight's situation where Leaf fans look at it and go, oh no, we're back to the same old Leafs. This team sucks again. I don't think that should be the takeaway from tonight's game.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's easy to overreact to one game. I get it. Like, they just went off 7 in a row, and then they come back home from a long road trip. 10, as they mentioned on the broadcast, it's not an easy adjustment to make. You're back home. You're feeling a little more comfortable.
Well, the Western road trip in particular, typically, for whatever reason, seems to give home teams a lot of troubles and struggles. Yeah. And that's, where the Leafs found themselves tonight.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like, I mean, there was just what annoyed me was just the details that they were honed in on in the first period completely went out the window.
Yeah.
Afterwards, right? And they looked like a team that just... They look like a team that had their blue line thrown into flux and didn't know how to really shake. Like, Sheldon Keefe couldn't figure out a way to make the pieces kind of work.
Well, that is kind of what happened, right? I mean, going into the day was going to be a game time decision on Timothy Liljegren. Turns out that he was not going to be able to play for the Leafs tonight. And, he had to kind of throw the lines into a bit of a blender. And next thing you know, we see Brodie and Rielly together, but this time it's Rielly on the right side. So wanting to keep Brodie on his left, where he's been a lot better and more comfortable, that puts Brodie that put Morgan Rielly on the right side. And those guys weren't particularly good tonight. The first goal, they're on the ice for 3 goals tonight, I want to say.
Yeah, they were pretty poor.
Yeah, like those guys just it wasn't a good night for either of them. I'm just trying to pull up to see exactly. I know they're on the ice for at least 2. They might have been on the ice for 3 goals, if I'm not mistaken.
I
Because I
know for
know
a
that
fact they were -3 at one point, but that was also when the game was like
4 goals. They're on the ice for 4 goals tonight. Now, yeah, I can't remember if one of them was the empty netter or what the situation was, but they were both on the ice for 4 goals tonight. Not great for those 2.
No, right? And we were kind of at a point where like, can they coexist just for one night? And we got our answer. Like, I don't know if you can ever really put those two together, given how they played,
Well,
tonight. And it's not one night. This has been a whole season thing. Vegas is also, again, as you said, they're still a good team. Yeah, they don't have Eichel, they don't have Stone, but I think this was like the 6th time this season they've had their full blue line for a change.
yeah.
Right. And so they're getting a little bit healthier, and they also had a point to make. They got embarrassed the last time on home ice. They returned the favor.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, what this tells me though is very clearly the point of emphasis at the NHL trade deadline has to be getting a partner for Morgan Rielly, because I think both of those two have to play on the left side. Rielly didn't look all that comfortable playing on the right either. There were many mistakes by both sides tonight. Emphasis or point. You look at how they're both on the goal on the ice for 4 goals against that 5-on-5 together. So I think, yeah, what this game tells me is they got to find someone for Rielly and Brodie. When Liljegren comes back, go back with Brodie, and then find Rielly a partner, and away you go. I not that I think we've seen the end of a Rielly Brodie pairing, but right now it sure as hell ain't working. So I think splitting them up is probably going to have to be the best course of action moving forward. Sheldon Keefe. Let's talk about Sheldon Keefe really quickly. So there was a lot of discourse online and also in the building, if you heard the boos, and on the broadcast, Mike Johnson talking about how it seemed to be a bit of a one-sided penalty fest. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, just for whatever reason, unable to get calls throughout the night. And I think it was 4-1 was the final penalty ratio there for the Golden Knights, including, kind of a backbreaking one late in the game after the Leafs had made it 4-2. And obviously, Sheldon Keefe did not like it, took exception to it, started going off. That was the Marner penalty, started beaking off at the official, and then things cooled. And then, like, the next face-off, Keefe had to get one more word in to let the official know that he didn't appreciate the call, or that it was one that he got wrong. And well, I guess, the ref only has so short a fuse, and teed him up, kicked him out, and he missed the final couple of minutes of the hockey game. What'd you make of that? Like, Sheldon Keefe getting teed up, getting kicked out. Does it bother you? Did you like it? Did you think he had a point? Like, what did you make of that whole situation?
Well, it sounded literally the way you described it was like an NBA. It felt like I was watching an NBA game there, where like the coach doesn't. The thing is, I can understand if Sheldon Keefe is being hysterical, yelling at the ref, and giving Garrett Rank like the 5th degree. Maybe he was just being too passive aggressive about it. Maybe he was trying to visually not look like he was saying much, but we don't know exactly what he said, although we could audibly make out most of it.
Well, I think Willie said he didn't say much after the game, and then I think even Mike Johnson was like, "Yeah, it didn't." He didn't say. The first rant was a lot worse than the second one. Let's put it that way. But the second one was the one that got him.
Well, I think because I think Mike Johnson also said, like, at one point the ref just like, enough. Yeah. Right? He told Keefe enough. Maybe that was just this morning sign. You want to keep going? We're going to toss you. I guess he didn't get that warning formally, but when your parent tells you enough, okay, growing up, and you've done something bad and they say enough, and you keep harping on it, guess what's going to happen? They're going to, in most cases, if you're Italian, they do one thing. Maybe in other cultures, they tell you to do something else.
Yeah, my mom was a big proponent of the pinch under the arm. She starts counting. She got to 5, run. So you're going to get the little pinch under the arm. Yeah, you don't let mama get to 5. You don't let that happen.
Well, unfortunately, Sheldon Keefe let the ref get the 5, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I thought it was a little much, okay, especially because we know a few days ago, and Garrett Rank went viral for that no goal review, and he
You're
made
not going to like this.
You're not gonna like this, and then he calls a no goal. It's a little showy, in my opinion. I don't think Keefe. It's not like Keefe was disturbing the flow of the game at all, or anything.
I'll be honest. I didn't have an issue with Keefe getting teed up and sent out. I didn't, but I also didn't have an issue with Keefe defending his team, his players, because that was a ticky-tacky call. Like, I didn't think that was really a trip, by Marner. It just wasn't. So I think Keefe had a legitimate gripe there, and he wanted to make it known to the official that he screwed up, and it was at a big moment in that game, right? The Leafs are trying to push back. They had just made it 4-2, got a little bit of momentum back on home ice, and then boom, Mitch Marner, their best penalty killer, ends up in the box, and that took away a valuable 2 minutes for them. And so he was clearly pissed about it, which makes a lot of sense. But there is only, there at some point you got to kind of hone it in. That's your responsibility as the coach. Yeah. And he just took it a wee bit too far. And I don't mind the ref saying, "Hey, look, the game's over. Just get out of here." Like, if you're just gonna sit here and bitch and moan and complain during every whistle, like, it's over. It's done with. The play's done. The penalty's over. They didn't even score on it. Like, just get out of here if you're going to keep beaking off about it. So I didn't really mind Keefe doing what he did, but I also didn't mind the ref saying, "All right, just get out of here." So I don't know if that makes me a fence sitter or what, but I'm understanding of both sides, I guess we could say. There were a couple things that I think we did enjoy about this game, though. It wasn't a complete dud from the Maple Leafs. Just a few costly mistakes is kind of the big difference in this game tonight. So why don't we come back? We'll reset things. We'll go through the good, the bad, the ugly. It's been a couple weeks since we've had to do this, Dave. It's been a while. Let's see if we remember how to go through that. But we'll do that on the other side. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And they're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time even has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It's the best place to find those last minute seats. And with the Game Time guarantee, it means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. You're hoping to go to the game tomorrow night against the Yotes. Perhaps think about using Game Time to grab your tickets. Again, create an account, redeem the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NHL players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com and shoot your shot. FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Network. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you. If it's your first time stumbling upon this podcast. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. If you are an everydayer who listens every single weekday morning, Monday through Friday, we do appreciate you for returning day after day and making us your first listen each and every morning. And again, if you're new, we do have new podcasts that come out daily. Each weekday, you can find them wherever you get your podcasts, whichever platforms you use, also up on YouTube. The Maple Leafs with a 6-2 loss tonight to the Vegas Golden Knights. And after every loss, Dave and I go through the good, the bad, and the ugly from the game. We haven't had to do this in quite some time, Dave. It's been a few weeks since we've had to do the good, the bad, the ugly. Hopefully we remember how this goes. Let's start with some of the good, because we haven't really gotten to much of the good quite yet on the podcast. So what are some things that you liked from tonight's game?
I like the fourth line. I thought the fourth line played pretty well. I mean, Ryan Reeves, he's a speedster. Who knew?
Well, yeah, really interesting. I texted one of my buddies in the media department, and I asked him if he had known whether or not, while Ryan Reeves was away from the team for that little bit while he was quote unquote injured, if he was working with the development and the skills coaches on his skating, because he does look a little quicker than he did prior to that injury. Like he was borderline unplayable earlier in the season. It's just a straight fact. The last little bit since returning here, his last 6 games, ever since coming in, he's actually been real solid. And this fourth line is now 3 straight games where they've consistently been, one of the better lines for the Maple Leafs. And obviously I mean that just in terms of, better.
They're playing the right way
in comparison to how they typically play, right? So, yes, you look at, again, tonight, though, this is that fourth line, and Ryan Reeves scores a goal. Like, when does Ryan Reeves score goals? That just has not been happening at all, but he gets one tonight. He gets on the board, and as a whole, if you look at them tonight, they were 60% expected goals tonight. So again, in the positives, this is a team that's out there. They weren't giving up a whole lot. In terms of scoring chances, they didn't really give up many scoring chances. They only gave up 2 shots at 5-on-5 when on the ice. 0 of them considered a scoring chance. So they gave up 0 scoring chances tonight in over 7 minutes of 5-on-5 hockey, 7.5 minutes of 5-on-5 hockey. And look, Ryan Reeves deserves a lot of credit, man. He really does deserve some credit for rebuilding himself, maybe is the word that we can use. Like, I was taking a look at some of his numbers since he's returned over the course of this winning streak. Now they've lost, but over the last 7-8 games, and like, this guy leads the team in expected goal differential. He's won over 75% of his minutes over his last 8 games. And this fourth line just continues to just absolutely dominate. And they've been on the ice. If you look at the last 6 games, Ryan Reeves has only been on the ice for 12 shots against at 5-on-5. That's through 60 minutes of action. They've only given up 12 shots at 5-on-5, barely any of them being of any significance. So that fourth line is spending a lot of time in the ozone, and I'm with you. I thought they had a terrific game, and I'm not going to go much deeper into this because we're going to play cosign, no sign shortly, and I may or may not have one regarding this fourth line and Ryan Reeves.
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I just think that fourth, there was such an issue for most of the year. We thought they were going to need, mega changes, and it's the one area I had no issue with in this game. Like, you couldn't say a bad thing, and I actually thought David Kampf should have been rewarded a hooking penalty against. He got hooked like not long after the Mitch Marner trip call.
Yeah.
So that wasn't pretty.
No.
So I just like they're working their tail off. They're getting rewarded, and that's what you need. The fourth line is doing what it needs to do. It's the least of this team's concerns because there are some issues that are concerning.
100%. The bad, the bad. We kind of talked about it already, but for me, it was the Brodie Rielly pairing. I just thought that they did not play well at all as a pairing. Just taking a look at while they were out on the ice together as a tandem, the numbers aren't glowing. They aren't pretty. They were outshot 6-3. They were on the ice for 3 goals against that 5-on-5 together, and an expected goals of 9. Expected goal differential. They were just completely outworked. They gave up 5 high danger chances. They gave up 7 scoring chances while they were out there. It just didn't work out very well. And they were kind of sheltered too, actually. 71% of their other starts were in the offensive zone. So things just unraveling. You obviously saw, the Barbashev goal to start things off. He gets the in behind Rielly and Brodie, and they give up that opportunity. Multiple times you saw that team kind of break down. The Morelli goal, same thing. It's those two that are out on the ice. So a couple of times there where those two, had some big gaffes leading to goals. And actually, they did not play particularly well tonight as a pair.
Yeah, no, I thought that was kind of my bad too. I thought the blue line was bad, but especially them. I don't know why Sheldon Keefe didn't try to figure out something different. I know that they were kind of
he did in the third period. Like Rielly and Benoit ended up playing together. They had 6 minutes together tonight. So in the third period, they made a switch. Because Rielly and Brodie only played 10:52 together at 5-on-5, and then Benoit and Rielly played 6:07 together at 5-on-5.
Yeah, like that just wasn't pretty, and the fact that the big talk was how all 6 defensemen were left shot.
Yep.
And it just, they did not look comfortable. They were kind of looking around, not sure what was going on. Like Brodie especially, I know like Rielly is going to get his fair share of blame, and rightfully so. Especially he took onus on the breakaway goal because he allowed the guy to get behind him.
Yeah, yeah,
right. So he had those issues, but like I watched Brodie playing tonight, and he just did not look comfortable at all in his own end.
It is very strange because he's been terrific the last few games here, and all of a sudden you put him back with Morgan Rielly, and he forgets how to play hockey. I just don't understand why more like this team doesn't play as well with Morgan Rielly, yet he is their best defenseman. It really is curious to me, the Morgan Rielly conundrum that this team has. But nonetheless, the lefty thing you mentioned is a big reason why both of us, when we did our mock trade Monday, and we'll do it again next Monday, by the way, so keep an eye out for that. When we did our mock trade Monday, we both targeted like 2 right shot defensemen, like not one, but we both think that they need 2 in there. Just because that's where this team's at right now, where they just don't have anyone. They could even use just an extra depth guy. Should mention, actually, Connor Timmins was on the ice today. Didn't expect that. Isn't mono usually like months long?
Yeah, like they were saying he was going to be out for a significant amount of time because like his spleen. They said his spleen needs to get to the right size. Like I'm like, that doesn't sound very reassuring.
Oh, was that today? Like they said that today?
Yeah, Keefe mentioned Timmins, and he was skating, but he's not. He's like, I'm not an expert on. I don't know much about mono, but there's this enlarged spleen that has to settle down and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, good that he's skating, but
yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting him to be part of this team's future anyways. I think it was literally on yesterday's podcast. I was like, things would have to go very wrong for Connor Timmins to be playing minutes in the playoffs for the Maple Leafs. There should be many guys ahead of him, and they should go out and get a couple players to play ahead of him at this point. Can't even trust that he'll be healthy at that point as well. All right, ugly. For me, it's just like pretty much a combination of what we've been talking about. Just the costly defensive miscues like allowing Barbashev to get in behind Rielly and Brodie. Domi losing Morelli on the second goal just completely allows him to get in front of Samsonov and zero pressure on him. And he just, good hand-eye coordination for him. But, it would have been nice if there was a body there or someone to box him out or lift his stick so that he can't get that deflection. And then John Tavares, they gave away in the D zone in the final minute there. Like they get a goal that they score. Tyler Bertuzzi gets on the board, cuts the lead 2-1. And you're thinking, okay, got a goal back right before the end of the second period. Maybe we can build some momentum and come in to the third like gangbusters. And John Tavares, a little backhand, fluff pass. It doesn't get out, giveaway in his own end. And next thing you know, it's in the back of the net and it was 3-1. And it was kind of it that really deflated things for the Maple Leafs. It was a big costly error. So, I thought that was really the ugly tonight, like those three big defensive miscues. And that was really the difference in tonight's hockey game.
Yeah, I call them the ugly mistakes because ugly mistakes. This team, when they lose, they beat themselves. They beat themselves. It's ugly when they beat themselves. Like even like the Tavares mistake, he said he saw Marner up the wall. And then you hear Jeff O'Neill say during the intermission, he was taught by a lot of people, not just coaches, but a defenseman named Paul Coffey, who is a Hall of Famer. That
pretty good. I've heard good things about that.
You've heard good things?
I've heard good things, yeah.
Yeah, that you should never go on your backhand in the defensive zone when you're trying to move the puck. That sounds like some sound advice there. You mentioned the breakaway, the play where Domi allows Morelli open, and I don't know why there's not a single defenseman in front of the net and why Max Domi is the last line of defense in that situation too.
Yeah, you could make that argument as well. But I think Brodie was chasing his guy around and Rielly had his guy. Yeah.
And that to me, that's ugly, right? Like you guys, like during scrambles like that, everyone should be communicating. Got your guy, things like that. I don't know. That's usually what I would kind of figure out in those situations.
Mm-hmm.
The goal allowed before the period, obviously, and just you get a chance to get back into the game. Not even just that goal before the second period, but even the third period, where it's like they didn't challenge that play with Pietrangelo keeping the puck in. I thought that should have been challenged.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
It wasn't.
Yeah, because like at that point, 4-1, tough to come back from. You probably need that to come off the board, and if it doesn't, and you end up having to kill off a penalty, it was 4-1, man, and like midway through the third period, it
ended 6-2. Like let's be real here.
Yeah, I agree. I was he asked about that post game? I didn't see anything about that. I'm sure he had to have been, but
to me, it's just like even if you're worried about taking the penalty, like as you said, you're down. You would be down 4-1, 5-1, 4-1 at that point of the game. Like I thought, okay, if you challenge it, you have a chance down 3-1, and they scored a goal. And when Reeves scored that goal, I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like it should be 3-2 right now.
Yeah,
but no, they didn't. I was very confused about that, considering how good this video department is of challenging things. And it didn't take much for the broadcast to figure out that should have been worthy of a challenge. Also, the ref was looking at the play. Don't know what exactly he was looking at there. I'll leave it at that. So yeah, just a lot. It's just like little mistakes like that, they pile up in a night like this, right? So it's a lesson, and you just hope that because you're coming back from that West trip, you kind of put it in the rear view.
I was just trying to take a look and see if I could find Sheldon Keefe, if he had said anything post game. He didn't really want to elaborate on that whole situation there. Just said not going there, and doesn't look like he was asked about the high stick either, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know. So,
whatever, man. We knew that the winning streak was going to come to an end at some point, and at least, honestly, I think we feel a lot better if it comes to an end against Vegas, the defending Cup champions, than if it would have came to an end Thursday night against Arizona. That would have stung a lot more if that was the game where the team loses its winning streak. And yeah, it's gonna be an interesting game on Thursday. That's all I gotta say. It is a chance for them to get back on the horse. You know what I mean? Like, good teams, they respond after a game like this, and they say, that wasn't us. Let's go out and let's show the world what the real us looks like with a much better performance. So we'll see what they can do. All right, we'll take one more quick break. Let's come back. Let's play some cosign, no sign. We both got a statement, a take that we both want to tell each other, and we'll see if we agree or disagree. That's coming up next on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. We haven't played cosign, no sign in a little while, and I thought today would be a good time because, well, pretty much I had a take that I wanted to bring to the table, and this is a fun way for us to shoehorn those types of segments into the podcast. So that's what we're going to do. For those who are new to the show and are unfamiliar with this segment, basically, Dave and I are going to make a statement to each other. If we agree with it, we're going to co-sign it, give the stamp of approval. If we disagree, we're going to no sign it and make fun of each other for such a stupid take. That being said, just kidding. Dave, why don't you go first? Give me your cosign, no sign statement.
Brad Treliving will push to get a trade for a defenseman done this week.
Oh, try and get it done early.
Beat the rush.
You know what? I'm going to no sign it. I'm going to no sign it because in order to do that, I think he would have to give up a higher cost, I guess, or else it would have been done by now. You know what I mean? Like, if prices are going to come down, they're not going to come down by Friday. They're going to come down by next Friday. So I don't think that he's going to make a deal. I don't think anything's particularly close, and sound as though anything is particularly close, according to what most insiders are talking about. And if you go and you look back on Calgary's deadline approach recently, I think they've been a team that's been more active closer to the deadline than beforehand. Like, I know Dubas liked to get his work done a couple of weeks, even a month or so before the deadline, but I think Calgary and Tree Living has a more of a track record of working closer to that trade deadline, which is March 8th, next Friday. So I'm actually going to no sign it. I think if we see a deal done by Tree Living, it's probably going to come, if not next Friday, maybe a day or two before, but not as early as a week out. I think it'll be a little bit sooner than that, or later than that, closer to the date than that.
I mean, we also don't even know how big he wants to make a move as well.
Yeah.
Right. And
well, according to a couple of insiders that we've heard, it sounds like the front runner for Chris Tanev right now isn't even Toronto. Sounds like it's the Dallas Stars. Darren Dreger was talking about that on the broadcast. I know Pierre LeBrun had talked about that also on Overdrive today. So, these guys aren't saying that for nothing. Clearly, they are the front runners as of now, which means Toronto is not. They would have to change their offer to make that happen, clearly. And it, as of now, it doesn't seem like they are willing to do that. So who else is out there for the Maple Leafs to make a push for? I mean, we talked about it yesterday, whether it's Ilya Lyubushkin, maybe they go that Will Borgen route. Perhaps, they could go a Sean Walker or probably not Nick Seeler, because I think they do need a legitimate right shot. I've heard a lot of Nick Seeler. We've heard a lot of Matt Dumba. I do not like Matt Dumba as an option.
If you do not like watching Morgan Rielly play defense, you're not going to like watching Matt Dumba play defense.
No, exactly. Do not trade for Matt Dumba. I'm starting to lean like the Lyubushkin route, though. Like, if they don't get Tanev, he clearly would be number one. I think Ilya Lyubushkin would be the preferred number two. There just seems to be, there's familiarity there with him and Morgan Rielly. And I think at this point, that's what you're looking for, is Morgan Rielly's next partner. And at least there's, some experience with those two together in playoff action as well.
And he wouldn't cost a first round pick.
Not even close. Not even close to a first round pick. All right. You got anything else you want to mention there as part of that, or?
Nope. Let's hear your. I'm waiting for this. Since you mentioned it, I'm very intrigued about your fourth line take.
Ryan Reeves is more likely to be in the game one lineup than Nick Robertson.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm co-signing that.
Are you now?
I am. I watched Nick Robertson tonight. He wasn't terrible, but there were moments where what I appreciate is his effort and his hustle. Like, late in the game, they're trying to get something going offensively. He's trying to do his best to make something happen. But it's also clear, and this has been brought up a few times by some analysts, he just gets out-muscled. He's outmatched with his size. Yeah. And that's going to be something I think the Leafs look at and say, can we trust that in the playoffs? Where you're not going to be going up against smaller teams, right? And so I love the way Nick Robertson's played since he's been recalled and has been a mainstay in this lineup. But I also know that there's going to come a time where they're going to have to decide if his style will translate to the playoffs. The hustle will, the effort will, but his size, he's going to have to find a way around it. And I don't know if they're going to be like Ryan Reeves, the way he's playing right now. You can play him in the playoffs like that, with the way that fourth line's been playing. I just don't know. You're going to probably need a little more. Like, if anything, Cal Yarncroke will likely usurp Nick Robertson at some point soon, I think.
Well, so that's the thought process. Well, it's one of two things, actually. It's when Cal Yarncroke returns, which the expectation is he'll be back to full practice by next week and probably start playing either next week or shortly after that. The guy who comes out of the lineup is probably Nick Robertson. Like, you're not taking Pontus Holmberg out of the lineup.
You're not taking Bobby McMahon.
You're not taking Bobby McMahon out of the lineup, and I'm not sure Robertson on the fourth line works. We've tried that before, and we know it's like top six or bust. Like, he can go down. He's waivers exempt. He can go down to the minors, or Dave, he could be part of a trade pack. He might not even be here.
The reason why I brought him up in a trade package, I just think if he's got value out there and he can net you something where you don't have to give up as much draft capital, or he's the piece that pushes you across the deadline, the line for a deal. Look, do I like giving up on a player who's only 22 years old? Not particularly, but at the same time, they've got needs and they got to figure out a way to they have a lot of forwards. They don't have defensemen. You got to take some of your surplus to fix the area that there isn't a surplus. And so I agree with that take. And I think Cal Yarncroke would work better with John Tavares as kind of that defensive safety blanket. And you got a shooter in Bobby McMahon. I think Bobby McMahon,
big body too.
Right? Bigger body. And, you you release a little bit of that defensive responsibility from John Tavares if you have Calle Jarnkrok there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's why it comes down to, all right, so on the fourth line, this is obviously barring that no other trades are made to add, which is also very possible. Who are you going to play as a fourth line winger, Ryan Reeves or Nick Robertson? In the playoffs, probably more so Ryan Reeves. I mean, it's kind of the reason why he was brought in here. It's the reason why he was given $1.6 million or 1.3 whatever million he was given on a 3-year deal to be on this team, right? Was to be here and be a playoff performer, or at least have his size be present come playoff time. So, yeah, I think it's more likely that we see Ryan Reeves. If it comes down to those two, you see Ryan Reeves get the nod over a guy like Nick Robertson as a fourth line winger come playoff time. I am curious. You mentioned possibly, again, there's the possibility that Nick Robertson might not even be on this team. Could be a trade value, but we brought up like Ilya Lyubushkin as a potential player to bring in. Like, is that what we're talking here? Is that too much? Do you think in your mind?
I think it's too much. Like some people even said, can you find a way to trade Nick Robertson for some draft assets? Now the problem is, let's say you get a third. Let's say you get a third for Nick Robertson, then you might as well just trade Nick Robertson for Ilya Lyubushkin if a third round pick is what it's going to take, right?
Yeah, like that's kind of what I'm getting at, right?
So,
like I don't think teams would value Nick Robertson to a point where they give up a second round pick. I don't see that being the case.
And look, he was a second round pick. So it's not like you're going like people need to remember that. It wasn't like he's a first round pick. All of a sudden you're losing his value as a third round pick. No, he was a second round pick who maybe in the right situation could live up to that potential. It's just not I just don't think it's going to be here.
That's what does Pittsburgh have in terms of right shot defensemen that they can trade for?
Oh my God!
Hey, they want youth, right? Don't they want youth? Didn't they say that they wanted to get younger?
I don't know what Pittsburgh wants. That's the problem. Like they literally have the right shot defensemen are Carlson Letang and Chad
Ruedel.
How that's a weird name. That's all they got for right shot. Like,
yeah.
So
that's not even going to work. Yeah,
I'm sure there was a team that will gladly look at Robertson as, a middle six potential guy that I don't know. You can find a home for him. It's just not.
I think, like, honestly, I probably would be comfortable giving up Nick Robertson for Ilya Lyubushkin. Like, keep in mind, Lyubushkin, if I'm not mistaken, he has another year left on his contract also after this. No, sorry, he's a pending UFA. But okay, so if you're Anaheim or if you're Toronto, you say, all right, Lyubushkin, you retain 50% of that contract, and we'll give you Nick Robertson for Lyubushkin at 50%.
And Nick Robertson RFA, so it's a controllable asset for Anaheim.
Right. So you're getting yourself, a middle six winger. Like, that's a team that needs to get younger as well, right? Like they've got some guys who are probably not going to be there. Jakob Silverberg, isn't getting any younger. Adam Henrique, maybe you can make try and get like a 2-for-1 deal. You can get Adam Henrique involved there. I don't know. I'm just trying to spitball here now. I know it's not Mock Trade Monday anymore, but I'm just trying to work out a trade. But maybe we could do that off air instead of talking about it live. Although that's what podcasts are for. Realistically, they're fun.
Like, unless the only other way you could potentially do is and this is more of a gamble move, is if you find a team that's got a right shot defenseman that hasn't really fit or isn't able to get that opportune playing time, and a team needs help up front, you could try to swing a deal that way. But I don't see it. Again, teams aren't just giving away right shot defensemen. And I was on Offside Hockey Talk after the game today, and I said, the fact that the Leafs did not even have another option to bring into this lineup that's a right shot shows where the failure from the organization has been in trying to look for right shot defensemen that you can develop, right, to be in these situations. So that's the reason why teams covet. That's why Chris Tanev is such a hot commodity. He is legitimately the best right shot defenseman out on the market, even though he's not, in that elite category, right? But he's the best out there.
Yeah, he's the best out there, and he's still really good. Still,
Yeah.
a solid.
He'd be an upgrade
player.
for every team that acquires him. He'd be an upgrade for them. But he isn't that guy. He's just not that like elite piece, right? He's really good defensively. He's just not that like, I don't even know what the proper way to say it is. Like, he's not the no. That'd be bad to say that about Chris Tanev. Like, he's a good defenseman. He's just not that elite part you're doing a blockbuster trade for. You're making a good deal, but you're not expecting Chris Tanev to be the guy that's going to do everything for you.
Right. But it's he's the cream of the crop right now. Might have been what you were looking for, the phrase you were looking for. He is the cream of the crop right now. But is he the answer? I don't know. Guess we'll have to wait and see. But if he's not, then obviously the Leafs will have to go elsewhere. And where that list goes, how long of a list that is, and players that they have interest in apparently is long. But who's the right fit? Maybe, Dave, that could be a conversation tomorrow on the podcast. Maybe a little power ranking of our top 5 right D trade targets. How's that sound for a little tease into tomorrow's show?
Don't mind it.
All right. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on X at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Go ahead, leave a like if you enjoyed the video here on YouTube. Comment down below as well. And we'll be back with our episode for you guys tomorrow. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.